where stuff going on.
Yo, what's good, guys? Welcome back to another episode. How y'all feeling today?
Man, I'm just leaving the gym. I ain't even gonna cap to you, bro. It was one of them days, man. Y'all ever been in so my routine is typically I'll hit cardio, either like doing the bike or like, running or something, and then I'll do, get a good little lift in. I don't lift more than 30 minutes. Like that's all I need. And then I'll
Mm.
usually do like the sauna, steam room, and cold plunge, man. And usually I find where I have the most like the hardest like mental battle is actually it's either the steam room or sauna. Like, and it's one of those things of like, it's gonna be hot. You know what to expect. But the door is right there. And so
Yeah.
you could just easily walk
How
through
long
that
do you be
door.
in there? How long do you sit in the steam room or the sauna?
Bro, I do 15 minutes in the sauna, 15 minutes in the steam room, and then 10 minutes, 5. And it was
That's
a
a
mental battle today.
Man, that's a good little process. I have a similar like gym routine aside from the sauna and the steam room. I probably need to add that. That seemed like a it seemed like a benefit you would overlook because clearly I'm not doing it, but it seemed like that's where the real benefit kind of really kick in.
Yeah, it's definitely relaxing. I'm sure Rodney can probably speak to the health benefits or the science, given he deep in that space. But yeah,
I definitely was gonna hop in on that. There is some benefits. There's some evidence with the sauna that it can reduce the amount of environmental toxins in your body. So like mercury and these different types of things that you get from eating different foods, they build up in your body over time. Even I think microplastics have been shown to reduce over time through the sauna. And there's a certain degree that it is. I'm not sure if what exactly it is. I believe it might be like 98 degrees Fahrenheit, but I'm not sure.
Hmm. That's a good tip. I guess I better add that to the routine. My gym
I
definitely
did
has
not
one
know
of
that
those.
at all.
I haven't used it.
But yeah, I'm not sure about any of like the subjective effects though. Like I'm sure there is. Like I've done the steam room before, or just a sauna before, but back when I was doing it, I had no idea about anything. It just was at the gym, and I was like, why not? It was right by the pool and whatnot. But yeah, I don't work out for that long either. As far as like lifting, I only need to do about 30 minutes.
Yeah,
I find it being unnecessary to be in there. Like when I was younger, I used to be in there for like an hour, hour and a half, like just kind
Yeah.
of like not being serious, not being quick.
Well, the goals have changed, right? When you was young, it was all
Definitely,
about pump
definitely,
as much as you can. Now it's like
yeah,
it's endurance. Now, like that's really what it's about, and maintaining
yeah, for sure.
what you already have. But so yeah, no, I'm similar. I've been thinking about building a gym in my house. Like I like going to the gym, but it's still inconvenient. Like I'm just like, man, how can I make it more convenient? So I've been thinking about creating one in my garage. I know I'm still on the fence, but I
Go
probably
that's
ahead
should.
and just
fire.
pull the trigger. Go ahead and pull the trigger on the squat rack, bro.
Yeah,
Get the squat rack with the bench and
that's what I'm
just do
thinking.
it.
Yeah, that's what
It's about a
that's the
thousand.
That's
It's
the
about a
system I'm
thousand.
thinking about. I'm gonna put a
Yeah,
treadmill in there. I'm like, I
yeah,
might as well just do
bro.
it. Just
Why
do
not
it.
doing
Just
it?
build
Hold up, you got that big
because low key,
backyard.
because
I do, but I don't have the covering though. I have to like build the covering for it and all of that.
yeah,
You like to get your hands dirty. It's a side
No, you're right.
project.
No, you're right. You're right. And in fact, if I do it no matter where I do it, I'm planning to do it myself anyway because I just want to do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is
Mm,
kind of easy. It's not that much. It's a
yeah,
floor, some mirrors on the like, you know what I'm saying? Setting up equipment. I'm like, this is not that bad. You're right. I do like a little side project. I do like taking that shit on. So I don't know. I might look into the backyard. But I think regardless though, it'll be really beneficial. And since I'm just on like this new journey with tracking my blood panels and my other health metrics tightly, I think anything that's like adding to my quality of life is kind of what I'm on right now, whatever it may be.
yeah, yeah.
that's
How you
gonna
been,
be one
Rodney?
of the first things I do. That's gonna be one of the first things I do. My house will be empty, and I'll have the squat rack and the bench, and without a doubt, that's like I think it's even on my lock screen, just a squat rack and a bench.
Yeah, that's all you need. That's all you
Bro,
need.
that's all you need, bro. Like, bro, squats and bench, bro. Just come on, man. Deadlifts, but yeah. So no, I've been good. I've been good, guys. I was in LA real quick. Had to run some errands, some quick errands, and but now I'm good. Well, I'm back ready. But those 5 hour flights. I don't like to do those too often. You know how it goes. But speaking of flights, TSA. Let's just jump into that. So, anybody listening, there's probably absolutely no way that you haven't heard about TSA. So TSA has been closed. Well, not closed. It's open. But for some people, it might as well be closed because they're not showing up to work. There are some people who are not showing up to work. People are calling off, etc., because they're currently not getting paid. They're not getting paid because of Congress. I don't recall the exact issue. I believe it's some type of funding issue. Forgot what agency, but essentially Congress is kind of dragging their feet on that. And all over the country, you see these different videos, YouTube shorts, TikTok videos of TSA workers pretty much saying, hey, like at this point, we've missed 2 checks, which is 4 weeks, by the way, because, you get paid bi-weekly. And they're wondering if they're going to miss the third check. So at that point, 6 weeks. And then at the third check, how much longer can you go without getting paid? And these people have already went through the first government shutdown earlier this year. And a lot of them got some back pay though. It's not that these workers lose out on the money. It's that it comes later. And then I think also for people who didn't call for work, I think Trump added a $10,000 bonus the last government shutdown, if I recall correctly. So those people should be, a little bit more in a better place. But I also wanted to point out that I saw that Elon offered to pay salaries. We don't know if that actually will happen, but I just wanted to break down some numbers real quick. TSA has about 55 to 65,000 employees. About 40,000 of those employees are on the front line, people that we directly deal with. If he were to pay those, if he was to pay those people, it would be hundreds of millions a month. It'd be a lot. This is not cheap at all, and I don't think he's going to do it. But I just want to give like a scale of how much all this stuff costs and how much money is not being paid. And then one more thing that I thought was interesting was Delta. So Delta came out, and I forget the exact name, but there's a specific lane for people in Congress that they use when they fly. And Delta basically said, we're closing that down. You guys are going to go through the regular lane. You're not going to go speed past everybody while TSA agents are not getting paid. I imagine this is just to put pressure on Congress, because right now Congress is getting paid, and additionally they were skipping the line as well. And Delta is basically saying, you are causing our business hell, you are causing a lot of pandemonium, and we want to make sure you guys feel it to potentially drive some urgency on that decision.
Yeah, down here in
Yeah.
Houston, I saw lines out into the parking garage. My sister-in-law flew out, I want to say yesterday or a couple of days ago. I think she said she waited in line for like 3 hours for a TSA. I have a flight tomorrow. My flight takes off at 7:30 a.m., which I'm a little nervous about because that's like a typical early flight time that it could be super busy. I had a flight last week, but it was in the evening time at like 9. Honestly, I had no wait. It was like straight through TSA. I was surprised because I saw all the things you talked about writing on the news. So I was bracing to have to wait, but luckily I didn't. But tomorrow I'm a little bit nervous because it seemed like this particular airport is one that has been really impacted. I think they said, at least I saw it on the news. I don't know how real the statistic is, but I think like 40% of TSA agents in the Houston airport have called off. So they're operating at, almost half capacity. And I think Houston's airport, the Bush Intercontinental Airport, the biggest airport down here in Houston, I think is like the number one airport where the most TSA agents have called off out of so far. That could have changed. I think I saw that stat like yesterday. So it obviously could change by today. But nevertheless, it shows that like Houston is really and I know that there's ICE agents here as well. I don't know exactly what the hell they're doing, but hopefully they are helpful. But nevertheless, they should get this thing back funded. My understanding is that Congress and the Senate are holding up getting this funded because they want to, and again, I don't know for sure, but my understanding is they want to defund ICE And I
Correct.
think in approving this funding proposal, which would also fund TSA, they would be sending additional funding to ICE, which they don't want to fund. And so they're kind of like using ICE as leverage while making TSA agents suffer. And my understanding is that ICE agents are still being paid right now. So they're not even suffering. And yet they're kind of like the leverage tool that the Congress is using. So I mean, it's unfortunate all around. I mean, I don't see it lasting too much longer, but the short term impact seems brutal and forever for the people who are actually going through it. Like if you're a single mom, single parent, or even a 2-parent household and your income just kind of stop, even though you're going to get it back, that can be kind of devastating. Because people are already kind of living check to check right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, no, you're spot on in terms of this current like shutdown being about ICE. I think one thing to call out is the specific piece that hasn't been funded is the Department of Homeland Security. So under the Department of Homeland Security, if you think of that kind of being like Alphabet and how Alphabet has Google and all their other companies under it, like YouTube, etc. TSA falls under that. ICE falls under that. The Secret Service falls under that. Coast Guard falls under that. And a host of like other services, that the federal government pays for as well. And I think this looks a lot like the past government shutdown that we experienced. What I would say back in like the fall. That one was over like healthcare like subsidies and things of that nature. But the reality was like the Democrats fought so hard on that and it eventually went nowhere, right? Like I think, they got some type of like small kind of like extension, like temporary extension, but it wasn't permanent and it never got resolved. And so my gut is telling me that just due to the makeup of Congress, once again, and Republicans kind of like having power there, you're probably going to end up seeing this be another type of result where like the Democrats fought hard. And personally, politics aside, I would say for good reasons, because I don't think they're necessarily arguing to defund ICE, because the reality was that big beautiful bill that was passed last year has provided and set aside the funding for ICE all the way through 2029. So ICE is going to be here all the way through Trump's presidency, rather if we like it or not, because the budget has already been set aside. I think it's more so related to like their code of conduct, like where they show up, how they treat people, things of that nature. And so to even take that into context and, think about Trump's decision to put ICE in airports, think about that juxtaposition. Like that is just like wild to kind of like think about. So yeah, honestly, I would even say like against the backdrop of everything that is kind of, already happening economically, you already called it out. Like these were people, that may be living paycheck to paycheck. The average salary I looked this up, the average salary for a TSA worker just doing the screening, meaning they work the x-ray, is $35,000 to $40,000. I don't care what you want to say, bro. Like those people need their money. They need that check. And so it's really sad that like they have to suffer, given, just kind of like politics. Yeah. And honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how many of them really want to stay in that type of profession, given what in the last 6 months, this is the second time your paycheck has been in jeopardy for nothing that you did. So yeah, those are just some of my thoughts there.
What do you think Trump should do?
I'll be honest, I'm not sitting in this position. Yeah, so I guess I'll ask a few questions because I genuinely don't know here. But is there an opportunity for him to, do some type of executive order for like temporary like funding? Because the reality is, until their like midterms happen and there is even some shift in power, whatever the Democrats really want to like try to get past, it's going to continue to run into this. I think we can probably predict that with some level of certainty. So it wouldn't even surprise me if like this isn't the last government shutdown that we see within like this year. And the fact that these things go on for 40 plus days, multiple times, is wild, right? Yeah, honestly, I genuinely don't know what he can do. I don't know if he could do like an executive order or whatever, but it doesn't seem like, is it on him?
I hate the way politics are set up in America. Like, it always seemed like there's just this back and forth between both sides that are fighting for things that are not even in the best interest of the people.
Mm.
And it always seemed like it's more about like just trying to battle the other side versus trying to actually get outcomes that are again in the best interest of the people. What are they even arguing about? Whatever it is, it can't be that important. It can't be more important than funding the paychecks of federal employees that make $30,000 minimum for in a country where the cost of living is going crazy. Even I'm complaining, and I'm relatively well off. I go and I fill up my gas tank right now, bro. Gas right now is almost $2 more for my car than what it used to be just a couple weeks ago. So imagine, like, for me, I'm like, okay, it's not really that big of a deal. I notice it though. But for somebody who's like a TSA agent, they're going to the gas station trying to fill up. That extra dollar 50 makes a big difference. So I
Facts.
don't know. I hate the way the politics are set up because all the politicians are doing is politicking, and they're not actually doing governance and actually yielding to the people in the way that they should. And they pretend that they do, right? Like this fight against ICE. I mean, the reality. I mean, we don't even have to get into like the immigration thing, but look, it's I don't know, man. I hate it because at the end of the day, we suffer. You know, the people that vote these clowns into office are the ones that are suffering, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
if I worked for the government, I would for sure be thinking about potentially another position that's not federal or state, just because of the instability. And even though this time around it's not all the federal workers, it still, to me, makes me wonder if this is going to be how the whole year is going to go. And it might not go that way, but if this is your livelihood, can you afford for it to go that way? And I think that is something that people might want to consider. And there's no blame on this one because I'm sure that people now, with the knowledge they have now, maybe wish that they could potentially maybe had, if it was possible, to put a little bit more away for this scenario. But it's unlikely that they saw this coming, considering the fact that typically maybe there is a government shutdown, and even though that one was long, what were the chances of it happening again? But I can tell you for certain that a lot of these people are not going to get tricked 3 times in a row. A lot of these people, they're not going to get tricked 3 times in a row. This one is probably coming with a lot of painful lessons. And I hope that people will be more prepared going forward whenever it opens back up. I also hope that Trump also rewards the people who definitely still showed up to work, even more than the 10,000 from last time. Hopefully, it's at least double that amount. So I'm looking forward to that. And it might give people an unexpected boost. And I think that would be good. But I don't blame people if they had to call off to take other jobs or if they had to quit because they had to get to work right away. But that does go to show how tight some people are living, where a check or two is you can't weather. And I understand that we all don't have a 6-month emergency fund, but it's worth repeating that 6 months, 12 months of emergency funds are something to aim for wherever possible. But I understand that in this economy it's very difficult. But that's something definitely, because to be in a vulnerable position like this and nobody's really coming to essentially save you. You have Elon saying something, but that may or may not pan out. So hopefully people can learn from this, and hopefully it turns into a more positive outcome in the end. But I would agree with Dre that it's not even clear if this is all necessary, but it does seem like Trump maybe, and just Republicans or conservatives are not going to budge. And maybe it's not worth constantly fighting on this one. Picking and choosing battles might be useful.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the reality is like domestically and abroad, like, yes, there are very physical conflicts that we've been experiencing over the last year, rather if it's, here in the US, the multiple, situations, involving ICE or even abroad with like Iran, Venezuela, or whatever. I think when you zoom out, at the heart of it is kind of like what Dre was kind of like alluding to, is morale. And I think we're at a point where trust is extremely fragile. I think trust is extremely fragile at home because, like you said, like now you're hitting people's paychecks, right? Which is like the money that people are bringing in. But even furthermore, the consequences abroad are now starting to hit people in terms of how they need to consciously be thinking about their spending. Right. And there's no signs of that changing anytime soon. And then even if you think about it, like this was something we were talking about before, but this is just me. And I was listening to a podcast, the Prof G podcast earlier, and there was a professor from the University of Michigan on it, like talking about this. But I kind of agree with it. It's like, it's wild to think that like on Friday, my man came out on Truth Social and said, Iran, you have 48 hours or we are destroying every single power plant, every piece of infrastructure that you have. You have 48 hours to come to the table. Literally 30 minutes before the markets open, he's like, we're in talks with Iran. Iran comes out and then says, we ain't talked to this nigga. I'm sorry. Like, but what is crazy about that is like, we've seen this before. Where, before I think it was in relation to tariffs and kind of like the ban on rare earth, like chips and stuff going to China. He said we had a framework. China didn't say anything. They didn't say we had nothing. Right. And so, yeah, somebody actually made a really good point that like, yeah, it was crazy. It was like 15 minutes before Trump announced that like, we were taking a pause. Yeah, I think the trade, somebody bought like $1.5 billion of like some stock. And then obviously he made a lot of money. And then somebody sold over $1 billion worth of oil contracts, like right before he said it. I've been saying this for a minute. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I think he understands that the market is what is really like, I had to really go look this up. I think he understands that the market is really holding shit up right now. Because we've been in a crazy bull run. Like literally since 2020 to now, S&P 500 has increased literally 220%. Tech, the NASDAQ, which measures just tech, is up 320%. This is unheard of and unseen. But you still have all these different other economical components of, job growth is basically stagnant. Any company outside of tech isn't necessarily growing the way like tech companies, specifically AI, is growing, right? And so things are very fragile, right? And I think we're at a time where like these things are now starting to impact just like the morale of the people of the country. I even saw this weekend, I think there's like another like 50 or so like major protests that are supposed to have tens of thousands of people like happening this weekend. We're just in a very crazy period of time right now, man.
I saw that tweet by Donald Trump that he was going to bomb all the power plants. My immediate thought was like, this is not going to go the way he think it is if we do this. This is not going to go the way. Because I'm like, bro, Iran they're going to be forced to like respond in a way that I think is going to like, because the reality is in America, there's like the actual conventional war and then there's the political war. Sometimes the political war can be just.
What's the difference?
I think the political war is that like the president or just our politicians in general are kind of bounded to the sentiment of our citizens. If citizens start making enough noise, then that forces the politicians in those particular districts, in those particular states to start to stand up, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to think about what the incentive loop is. Politicians want to be voted back in office. And at some point, if citizens realize that these politicians are not making the best choices, then we're just not going to vote them back in office. It's just that simple, right? These districts will lose money. Corporations will stop funding these lobbies. Like there's a whole cyclical effect that starts to happen when the narrative starts to shift amongst the public, like pressure. right? And so, you know, the government, what they try to do is they try to suppress as much information as they possibly can. They did it during the Vietnam War. They did it during the Iraq invasion, right after 9/11, right, where they just constantly reduce the information that they tell the public because they obviously don't want the sentiment around the war to change, right? And so I think like what Donald Trump is trying to do is really balance the political side of the war, because on the conventional front, let's just be honest, like there's no one who can really fuck with us there, right? If we really want to like strongman somebody, right? Like we can do it if we really wanted to. I mean, we literally went into Venezuela and kidnapped the president. Like, I mean, like we can do it. We can do it if we want. I mean, we used the first atomic bombs ever, right? We're the only ones that have ever done it. So there's already a precedent that we will do whatever we need to do on that side, right? But on the other side, right, I think is where Donald Trump is really walking the line thinly here, because you know he's trying to control that information. It's hard to do it these days because you know Iran is on Twitter tweeting back and forth with him, tweeting animations, cartoons, all type of. It's hilarious.
It's wild, bro.
And they can respond in a way that we've never seen this before, right? Like in a way back and forth, and immediately contest what he's saying, right? And it's like as citizens, we're like, well, shit, do we believe our own president or do we believe Iran? Unfortunately, I'm gonna believe Iran on this one. I don't think Iran is ready to stop. I think they want to keep going. I think they want a ground invasion. I think they want to inflict pain on America. I think they want to do all of that, right? I think they want to continue to fight this war. I don't think they want to stop. And the U.S. political environment doesn't have the same patience. We don't have the same patience as for a forever war anymore. So I don't know, man. I think we kind of alluded to this earlier. There's no good end in sight that I kind of see. I don't know how Donald Trump backs out of
I
this.
don't understand why wouldn't they want to continue? Why not? Why wouldn't they want peace? If it's true that we have so much dominance and we have so much force, and although maybe of course they're defending themselves and they've retaliated, why wouldn't they want to stop? I guess I don't understand why they wouldn't want to stop, given those things being true, that we could, if we really took it to another level, unless of course you're suggesting that they want to keep going just to make us do something that ultimately will make us like.
I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand.
I think they ultimately what they want, and again, this is just my light understanding based on what I've seen, right? Is Iran is doing everything they can to try to fight against what I would call like the modern day American imperialism, right? Which is you have America deeply involved in the Middle East, deeply involved in some of these nations where Iran and some of these other countries don't really want the U.S. involvement in the same way that maybe like Europe is okay with, or you know Asia may be okay with. And so I think ultimately I think that's one part of it. I think the other piece is that I don't think Iran trusts the US. My understanding is that there's been several conversations and agreements that Iran has come to the table and had agreements with the US, and then we just completely have gone back on our word. We've completely gone against what we said we were going to do. And then I think the third piece, which I think is really important, is that Iran has made it really clear that they don't like Israel. And Israel has made it very clear that they don't like Iran. And so I don't think either side honestly is going to want to stop it, right? And so even if the US does want to stop, I don't think Israel is going to be happy until they get what they want, and I don't think Iran is going to be happy until they get what they want. So I don't even think the decision to end the war even comes down to the US, quite frankly, because I think it's bigger than that. So and then I think the other thing is too is like they've already made it very clear that like I think they understand how American politics work, and they understand that when it comes to war, the economic and political endurance in the US is not as strong as some of these other nations. They can go for as long as possible. That's not necessarily what the US can do. Like we're not I think we've made it very clear from a citizen standpoint that like we don't want another 20-year war like we had in Afghanistan and some of these other places. We're just not open to that. We don't want that politically. But Iran, I mean, they ran by one person, right? That one person can decide what direction they go in, right? They don't need consensus. That's not how American politics work. And so I think they're kind of playing to how our system is set up, and knowing that our system is ran off consensus, and from a consensus standpoint, war is not something that like I don't think the average American, if you poll them and ask them, do you want to be in war? I don't think the average American is like, yeah, we want this. I think the average American is like, no.
I think there's
Yeah.
one thing that you mentioned before we hit the record button about us setting up things to potentially escalate the war. And I wanted to know, is one of those things the fact that starting April 20th of this year, the U.S. Army will raise the maximum enlistment age from 34 to 42.
What's this for?
This is for the Army. Starting April 20th, the Army
Yeah.
will raise the maximum enlistment age from 34 to 42. That seems, the timing of that seems a little interesting to say the least.
For sure. I heard there's been, I don't know the stat. I don't have it on hand, but I'm sure we could look it up. But I heard there's been like a decline in recruitment. I don't know if y'all even noticed, like there has been more military content even on Netflix, right? Like I don't know if y'all have seen it, but
Facts.
like there's just been more like, the military and the Pentagon is highly involved in movies and film, like in Hollywood. Like they advise Hollywood on military production on movies across all different types of movies, shows, series, all of that. And so there seems to be like a national push to kind of just revamp recruitment. And they do it through simple things like putting a documentary on Netflix about the Marines, right? Like that, some 12-year-old, 13-year-old sees that and like, oh shit, now I want to be a Marine, right? And they're only a couple of years away from that. So I do think that some of those things are correlated and intentional. To what degree is, again, it's hard to say because we're always being lied to. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's by incident, right? That like all of a sudden they raise that recruitment age. It seemed like they know that the future of the military doesn't look as good. I mean, hell, would you want your son to go off to war fighting for the same bullshit that we know that they've lied about in all these other wars? I wouldn't. I wouldn't send my son out
Facts.
there.
Facts.
Well,
I think,
in that case, oh, go ahead, Brylan.
yeah, one, I wanted to provide some context on this because, kind of going back to the question you asked, like, if Iran knows that the US can come in, swoop it up, air shit out, why keep fighting? And I think, the quote that literally comes to mind is like literally from Jay-Z's Dead Presidents. It's hard to stop a nigga with nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose. And what I mean by that is literally their economy had dropped by $60 billion in a year. It was not growing. Inflation was 43%. Unemployment was rising. And literally the US had a ton of sanctions in relation to like their oil, where a third of the revenue that they were getting before in relation to oil contracts, they couldn't just because of US sanctions, right? And so they're at the bottom of the bottom. Like it can't get any worse, right? And so that is what the US is fighting on top of geography. Like when you think about geographically, if we thought Afghanistan and Iraq was hard to fight in, Iran ain't going to be any easier. And so, yes, we have I would say superior army, etc. But we saw what that led to in Afghanistan and Iraq. Like it was just a whole different environment. And I think we do just live in a world where things are becoming multipolar, where you're having these big players, so the big three, US, China, Russia, and then you're having all these satellites that are essentially being supported by them. Iran is supported by China. So as long as there is a strong China, there will be a strong Iran. That is the reality of this. And they know that. And there's a reason why, like, everybody keeps talking about the Strait of Hormuz. This is what is causing all this economic turmoil right now. Yes. Like, I'm sure people have seen the chart where it literally went from 120, 30 ships, transporting oil, consumer goods, etc., to damn near zero. Literally, I think the last stat was like there are literally like 2 to 3 ships that pass through it a day. You know where those 2 to 3 ships are going to? China. So like I am just in this camp of this is just another proxy war against China. And when we think about Iran low key may have a different position of strength because duration. Duration is in their favor just because this shit cannot get any worse than it already is. The economy is already fucked. 2, we can get some capital from China because China basically has positioned itself around the globe through finance. And then three, literally what Iran has done that I think has caught the administration off guard, because I don't think they anticipated that, is going after U.S. allies in the Gulf. I genuinely think it caught them off guard to be like, oh, they went and hit Qatar.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they really thought that was going to happen.
And hitting civilian hotels and shit too. I think it's one thing if you're hitting the military bases, but imagine you in Dubai on vacation, you're just chilling in the pool and you see a drone hit the hotel. That's crazy.
Nah, we got to get out of there.
For sure. You probably never going back. You ain't ever going back to that.
That's ruthless. Wow.
That's traumatizing for sure.
Wow.
So
let's switch gears, guys. Let's switch gears. That's crazy. Just the visual. Well, I can't visualize, but you guys know what I mean. The visual of being in a hotel and a bomb goes off on vacations is crazy. And literally just a month ago, I was listening to somebody talking about how Dubai was one of the best places to be and everybody should move there. And it's just that quickly. But yeah, guys, I wanted to bring up something interesting here. But first I'll start with this. Because I think Brylan has not understood my position on this. And I want to make it clear because he made a comment about me saying this off the record. And the thing is that I'm like 99.9% sure I've said this on the record, but I just want to repeat this. I think Claude has a great product. I think Brylan has good product taste. I've always said that Claude has a great product. My issue is with Dario. My issue is directly with Dario. That's pretty much it.
Hold up. We got to clarify this. We got to make it specific. Your issue is with the dude who just did $6 billion in revenue over the past month.
That's nice. But you know why he's doing that? Because he's taking short-term gains and he's not trying to grow the business. So for example, if OpenAI, if you always had to hit a limit every 5 minutes, yeah, you would see 10 times the number of revenue. But OpenAI is trying to grow. So also, additionally, the one thing you didn't mention is that OpenAI is looking to raise another $10 million at a $30 billion valuation. That's record-breaking. So look, $6 billion is nice. $6 billion is nice. I think that's nice, man. But all I see is people hitting Claude limits. So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Objectively, what does that tell you? If everybody keeps hitting these Claude limits, then you also see they have high revenue numbers. What does that tell you?
Hey, it's a great balance of supply and demand. They're not over. They're not.
You just won't. What? Dre. Please, come on, bro. I told you why, though.
So I would take it to mean that either they have a limitation, right? A technical limitation, which they just haven't caught up to yet, which is there. Or I would say they are more so going down a more sustainable growth path.
Yes.
Right? Like
yes.
It would either that would be the two things that I would kind of lean towards.
Yes. Conservative.
I don't know which one it is because I don't look that much into Claude's like the actual company, so I don't know. I use the product. I love the product, but I would say it's probably one of those things. It could be something else.
Okay. But I want to push back on valuation. Push back on valuation because the reason
before you push back on that,
okay,
you got to directly address though the fact of the matter is you never see anybody run into a limit on ChatGPT. You just don't see it. You just don't see it, right?
You're right.
So imagine if you were a crack addict and you went to go get the crack and the dealer was out. Okay.
Hold up.
Just imagine.
I'm genuinely putting myself in the shoes.
So what are you gonna do next?
Hold up.
You're gonna go to the dealer every time you're there, $5 a piece, right there. Boom, boom, boom.
who make more money, the boy on the corner or the plug? Because this is the reality.
Okay,
hold up.
That's
We ain't never
oranges,
heard.
Though. You don't hop.
No.
No. You don't hop.
We ain't never.
That's fair. But who's gonna ultimately make more money? That I'm telling you. Look,
we just did $6 billion.
Hov is the wealthiest musician on earth. They just put that out. And where did he start?
Hold up.
Where did he start?
We can't talk.
Where did he start? Like, look, I'm telling you. I know. Look, I think that there is. Look, I think it's real clear. We can phrase it how we want, sustainable growth, but ultimately, it's not the big swing. OpenAI.
Why isn't it?
What? Because it's like okay. Okay. You said why not? Like why isn't it? Like as opposed to like OpenAI.
Yeah.
Because they're choosing the safe path. Obviously, if OpenAI wanted to charge money, they could just switch it on and then more people would be forced to pay. If they just turned it on, more people would pay, the revenue would go up in the short term, and then everybody would say, oh, OpenAI is winning. I think that Dario is playing a short-term game in comparison to OpenAI. In comparison. In the long run, Anthropic is going to be fine in the long run. But I'm just saying as far as in comparison to OpenAI, they're playing a way different game. Clearly, they are nearly $1 trillion company at this point. This is not something that Dario's doing. Dario doesn't know nothing about this type of game that Sam is playing. I'm not saying Sam's game is going to work. I'm just saying he's playing a different game. It's obvious he's playing a different game. I don't think Dario thinks he can be Google. I don't think he thinks he can compete with Google. Sam is clearly trying to compete directly with Google. That is obvious. So let's not root for the person who is taking the conservative bet. Let's not root for the person that's playing it safe. He's playing it safe. Dario ain't doing that. First of all he did was copy Sam. That's all he did. He just made it. All he did was make an OpenAI clone, and he's trying to package it as something different. It's an OpenAI clone. Same technology, same stuff. It's just like, it was just a waste of time, waste of money. It's a waste of money. We would have been fine with Gemini and ChatGPT and Grok. We would have been fine with that. Obviously, we can't stop Elon from investing his own money. But Claude, it's just a waste of time, honestly. But they'll exist. But it's just, come on, man. Come on. It's like
you don't
Wendy's.
Believe that. You don't believe that.
It's like Wendy's. It's like Wendy's, bro. Like, at the end of the day, maybe Wendy's have fresher burgers and maybe they taste better and maybe they're healthier. That's what you're arguing, Brylan. But ultimately, who won the game? Who won the game?
Let me say this, man.
Why would you answer? You don't never answer nothing. Well, who won the game?
No. I'm about to answer this. I'm about to answer this, right? Because you brought it in Hov. And so we got to bring it back. And Hov said it best. Would you rather be a trend or would you rather be Ralph Lauren? OpenAI is a trend. Anthropic is Ralph Lauren. Like, there's a difference. You're right. There are different games being played. I think we need to be questioning the velocity that OpenAI is raising this type of capital. And the reason why you need to be questioning it is because where is all of it going? And I think from the narrative that we see, the assumption is it's all going towards compute.
No, not from my perspective. No.
Where's it going? Losses? Because they got a lot of them.
Yeah. When you grow a business, you lose money. You lose money.
No, if you're gonna compete against, let's take a step back, right? Because
I don't think they're competing against Google.
But they are, though. They are. And they said that
indirectly. But I don't think. Go ahead.
No. It's not about search. I'm not talking about they're competing with search. They are competing with Google as a as a product because Google is more than just search, right? Like we know what's under the hood there, and they know that, right? Just like they know that Google could have easily done what they did with the chatbot and all that. They just didn't do it fast enough. So they're not just competing with search. They're competing with Google as an organization. They're competing with the resources, the talent, the compute, everything. And if you're going to take that swing and try to even attempt, if you're even going to say, I am going to compete with Google, if you could even put that out into the world as a possibility, the only way that you can even be taken serious, first of all, it's almost a very few set of people that would even take that statement serious. But the only way to even demonstrate to the market, to employees, to partners, to anyone that you are even relatively serious about that task, you have to raise the capital. You cannot compete against Google by just shipping product. That is not going to work. It's not going to work at the market level. It's not going to work to attract the best talent. It's not going to work in order to get superior customers, like enterprise level customers, enterprise level part. It's not going to work. If you're going to make that statement, now you can go play a different game, right? And you can still have success. It's not a zero sum in terms of success, right? You can do a company that has 20 billion in revenue. Any one of us right now would take an opportunity to go run a company that's doing 20 billion in revenue. We would,
of course,
right? But hey, shit, if we can do 150 billion in revenue, that's better. So but my thing is those two things can still coexist with one another. But if you're going to even attempt to compete against Google, bro, you have to have the resources. You have to have the means. You have to have the capital. Even if you don't even use it for compute, you got to have the capital for psychological safety for big enterprise customers. You're not going to get a customer like a Disney or an Oracle or some of these big ass clients if you don't have the capital, because they can easily take that money and go spend it somewhere else with like Google, where they feel secure and confident at. Like we know how these enterprise contracts work. They're slow, they're methodical, and it takes time. And in order to get them, you got to have the ability to execute on them, and you need resources, and you need capital, and you need psychological safety. So that is why they have to raise this money. And that's a different game than what the Anthropic guys are playing. That's fine. But again, if you're going to compete with Google, there's no other way to do it, bro. There is no other.
So
it's just
there's
a
no other
different
way.
game.
So hold up. They are different games, but I want to unpack this, right? Because once again, my fundamental qualm with OpenAI is, if we look at their valuation, are they worth that? And I personally don't know if I would say that.
Brylan, Nick, give me one startup right now that is worth their valuation, that is raising capital. Give me one. Because there is not a startup today that is raising money at current valuation and at current market rate. They wouldn't be doing that. You don't raise money like that as a startup. You always raise money based on future valuation. It's not based on today. Even the company you work for, the company Rodney worked for, are not raising money for what they are doing today. It's all about future. So when you make the statement that you question the valuation and if they're worth that, well, that's an unfair statement, because that can exist across the entire venture sphere.
No. You're not wrong, but I want to look at the components of the valuation. Like, is how much of the valuation is really rooted in like the actual fundamentals of the business versus the actual narrative of the business. I think so much of the business of OpenAI today is still so much narrative. That's why, like, when we talk about Google, them competing against Google, it sounds good. But the reality is, I don't see them really competing against Google. And the reason why is they're going after different capital pools. Google's business is doing what? $300 billion in ad revenue. OpenAI is pivoting away from ads. They won't be touching that revenue. Not a piece of that.
Yeah.
When?
OpenAI's revenue run rate right now, because I think you're conflating it, right? Like, I think both of those things are actually true. You got a business that's probably doing almost 20 billion in revenue, on top of, yeah, you're right, there's a big narrative around it for future. Bro, if they're doing 20 billion in revenue, like, at least they got to be, right? Like, at least that 15, 20, 30 billion in revenue.
They're doing.
So you're questioning it as if it's not a real business. Again, anyone.
No, I'm not questioning as if it's a real business.
But you said, but you said
I'm questioning.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What I'm specifically saying is, so much of their valuation is driven by narrative. And if we unpack that narrative, I don't think that narrative is as strong as people make it seem. I don't think they're really competing against Google because they're not going after the same revenue. Google's revenue is going to still continue to be Google's revenue. I think that has shown over the last few years. If OpenAI figured out how to do ads, great. Then we could have a different type of conversation because now we can say what their billion, users using ChatGPT. Basically, they're going to figure out a way to monetize that. But they haven't. They're pulling that back. And so most of their revenue is still coming from subscriptions. We know that business is fundamentally slowing down, but can that type of business get them to $1 trillion IPO in the same conversation of a Microsoft, an Amazon, a Meta, an Nvidia on $20 billion? Those companies are doing hundreds of billions in revenue, bro.
If the market,
subscriptions ain't getting them to 100.
Bro, is there more than 300 billion spent on software subscriptions a year?
I'm sure there is.
Okay, so then the opportunity.
So you think they're going to go get that?
But also, look, hold on.
They are.
Markets create reality. Markets create reality. We see this with Tesla. We've seen this with other companies. Markets create reality. If you're simply arguing that at the moment they're not at a certain valuation, then that you can't argue that. They're obviously not worth $730 billion at this current precise moment, but that's not what investors do. They project to the future, as Dre pointed out earlier. Sometimes, occasionally, not all the time, actually most times, startups do not grow into their future valuations. Most startups fail to grow into those visions.
This isn't a startup we're talking about.
Occasionally, it's under 10 years. So we're going to call it a startup.
This scale?
Yeah, still, I mean, because it's based on the amount of years. It's a startup. I mean, it's less than 10 years old. We call Snapchat a startup when it was 8 years old. It's like, and that was just a photo app. It's not that serious. It's still a startup. Now maybe when it's like 12 years old, I could start to say that word might stop. But they're clearly moving like a startup. Looking at the shipping speed, looking at the momentum, looking at the amount of money that they're raising, they're moving exactly as if they just got started. And so occasionally you have situations where companies grow into their valuation. And I think this is one of those cases that...
What components of their revenue do you think they're going to dominate to reach that valuation?
So here's the issue. Here's the issue. This is what this separates people from being a good investor versus a bad investor. Do you honestly think that you can get the absolute grounded truth on what's going to happen in the future? Like, that's not how it works. Like, they have momentum.
No.
They have momentum. They have momentum. You keep pulling it back to the ground, and I'm talking about future bets on the future. They are putting $10 billion. That money is going to be spent, and things are going to come from that money. People are going to work. Things are going to get shifted. Chips are going to get bought. Things are going to get built. Things are going to be discovered. So then, as that unfolds, we will be able to see how it unfolds. It is very tricky to sit back and say, okay, yeah, how are they going to make money? They didn't even know they were going to make ChatGPT. They didn't even know that was going to work. So we don't know. We just don't know. So I'm not even arguing. I can't argue about the future because the future unfolds. Time unfolds, and we have to wait. Correct. We have to wait and see.
Let's talk about what we've waited and seen over the last 6 or so months.
We saw you was wrong. I mean, last year on the podcast, you said they was going to be dead, and now they are worth $730 billion.
You did.
So I mean, so if we gonna go off of, look, how about this? On the record, Dario is gonna end up just like the CEO of Perplexity. It's gonna exist, but nobody's gonna care. OpenAI is gonna be in the big five.
How are you saying a company, bro? You're saying the company Apple, that 97%. Like, think about that. Most of the Fortune 500 companies use cloud.
I'm not worried.
So the company that has the most enterprise.
That stat doesn't even matter, bro. Let me tell you how enterprise software works in corporate. You can have one team of people, 4 people in an organization using software, and all of a sudden that company can say that company is using them. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So that stat is irrelevant to me. Like the true thing.
So
that
you think
matters
4
is,
people in a company is just using Claude and not the rest of them?
no, Brylan. But my point is that we don't really know the penetration. So it's easy to just throw out a number and say 97% of Fortune 500 companies are using Claude. When that could be very true, but it could be 7 people within the organization. It could be, and it could be more. It could be more. I'm not saying there's not more, but I'm just saying we don't know that not to be true. And never. But more importantly, bro, everybody keeps talking about Claude being so big, enterprise. You don't think OpenAI has any enterprise revenue?
They have
You
huge
think they're doing
contracts.
0? You think they're doing 0?
We're not saying 0. We're not saying 0 here. We're not
then what
saying
are we
0.
Cloud
saying?
is not even touching them on consumer, and they're neck and neck
They're
in
not touching-
enterprise.
Bro,
They're
Cloud
neck and neck in
doesn't have-
enterprise.
doesn't have to touch
Bro,
them on consumer
they're not
because
beating-
it's shown that the consumer is not going to get you to that
Is Claude doing
valuation,
over?
bro.
Is Claude doing?
Bro, the consumer got them to
3x on
700 billion.
enterprise.
What are you talking about?
Bro, off of narrative.
Sometimes.
Okay, Brylan's pretending like he don't know how fundraising works.
I know.
Yes, I know how
I know.
fundraising works, but
I know.
I'm talking about. So let me take a step back.
It, bro.
Would OpenAI be a good trade on the market? Yes, I would say OpenAI would be a great momentum trade. I would trade OpenAI and make some money off of it. But if I'm just looking at a company and saying, okay, this is your valuation, what the fuck are your future cash flows? I'm telling you, when that S1 comes out, people gonna be shocked. People gonna be shocked.
They only need no. People are not going to be shocked. They only need one huge, big breakthrough to completely change the game. And every dollar they get, they have $10 billion extra dollars coming in.
Bro, they lost $4 billion last year. They're saying they're doubling the workforce. So let's just say they're going to lose $8 billion this year.
Why do you keep talking about loss as if every dollar spent goes towards something? Every time a dollar gets spent, something happens in the real world. So let's stop talking about lost. Like, every time a dollar gets spent, something happens in the real world, bro. Every time a dollar gets lost, something
because at some point,
you act like it got burnt. You act like it just got burnt, and you act like someone just threw it outside in the strip club. They just threw it. It got burnt, and something happened. Progress got made. I think, and here's the thing about it. Bro. At the end of the day, you wanted me to say it on record. I had already said it on record, but I said it again. I like Claude, the product. Claude is an incredible product. Claude has incredible results. Claude is good. But Dario is not Sam. Dario is not Sam. Sam is somebody who was in the YC ecosystem for a decade and additionally was the president of YC, and he got to see through pattern recognition many multi-billion-dollar startups. And then additionally, he was that different that Elon believed in him enough to even put the initial $50 million into OpenAI. And then additionally, when Elon counted him out, he came back and he's literally at 700. And here's the thing.
It sounds great.
You will not believe. You will not believe. You will literally won't believe until you look dumb. But
you know who? Hold up.
You will not believe.
You know who Sam had to go hire? You know who Sam had to go hire to even make any of this possible?
It's an employee.
His name started with a D.
That's fair. I give you that. He's one of the best. He's the best employee of the decade. I'll give you that. He left and he started something, but he's not the founder of this whole thing. He's not the person that Elon sat down with. He's the person that Sam went and go found.
No. Elon went and found him and Ilya and brought them together to take him to Sam and said, "This is who you needed."
Okay.
It was the other way around.
Okay. Sure.
They were chased.
That's fine.
All I'm saying is,
at the end of the day, that's fine.
OpenAI is playing a venture game. Makes sense. Anthropic, I think, is playing one of infrastructure. I think they are approaching this like a hard tech company. Believe in what?
I'm just saying. At what point? So, for example, when it comes to venture companies, and I didn't even realize we're running over just a little bit. But look. At what point do you gotta say, you know what? I was wrong about this company. This happens all the time, by the way, Brylan. Just so you
No,
know,
no, no,
people
no,
are
no,
wrong
no.
all the time. People are wrong all the time.
Yeah.
So at some point, they have to update and be
But
like,
this
I
is
was
a
wrong.
different stage of company. This
I'm
is
just trying to
this
say,
is not.
I'm just trying to say, what are the conditions that would say, I, Brylan, am wrong? Because so far, you were wrong the first time, but that's not enough. So I'm trying to say, at what point do you say, okay, I was wrong about Sam? What is the condition? What does Sam have to do? Like, what does he have to do? Like, I'm curious. Now, by the way, for me, I'll stop believing in Sam when the momentum stops, but it hasn't stopped. His momentum is there. Now, people are questioning the velocity, and that's fine, but it's there, and it's still going. So I'll stop believing when I'm seeing him. I'm not gonna look at somebody running 100 miles per hour and be like, yeah, he's gonna stop soon. He said that like LeBron. People were telling me LeBron was gonna retire at 38. They're like, yeah, no,
You
there's no way.
comparing Sam Altman to LeBron James.
What? Are you serious? Name another founder.
Are you serious?
Name another founder that. Come on, bro. Come on, stop it. First of all, okay. I can't even compute this. I can't even go like.
Brylan be rage baiting, bro. He just rage baiting. That's all. That's all. He
has to be,
bro.
He has to be.
For the audience who don't know, Brylan is a former founder who has raised capital. He understands the venture game.
I cannot believe this
very well,
brother. You don't believe this. You don't believe this. Maybe he just likes to get into. Bro, there's no way, bro. Bro, who's Michael Jordan in our industry? I'm just curious. If he's not the current, like, who is
you're going to say
who's the Michael
if you're
Jordan?
going to say LeBron James, then genuinely you got to give it to like a Zuckerberg, or you got to give it to like an Elon, or even you got to give it to like a Max Levchin, or you got to give it to like a Peter.
He's trying to be that though. He's obviously playing.
There's a difference. They already are. They've been in the game for decades. And now you're going to say Sam been in the game for decades.
Sam defined an entirely new category, bro.
$1 trillion category.
I have huge respect for Zuck. I love Zuck. I love Jeff. I love all the founders you mentioned, bro. Love them, highly respect them, look up to them. But no, this nigga defined an entirely new category, got trillions of dollars pumped into the market, got shit going, got Google dancing in a different direction. No,
that's true.
He's a generational founder, bro. And that doesn't take anything away from Zuck. They don't take away anything. They built better products. That's cool. And it's good to build better products. But, bro, sometimes you engineer a product, a business, market timing, scale, all those things got to be taken into account. He's generational.
Hey, man, when the S1 comes out, we got to do a breakdown.
Ain't no shocks to me. You're going to see 50 to 100 billion in revenue, which is totally fine.
You're not going to see no shot.
Watch.
I don't get it.
Watch. We'll see. But this was a good one. Y'all got something else, or we done?
No, we done.
Let's wrap it up. All right.
We're going to check back on this.
Dario
is not
when the S1s
don't
drop.
Bet on Dario,
when the
bro.
S1s drop.
Don't do it.
Don't bet on profitability. Don't bet on a good business.
Don't bet on Dario specifically. If they fire Dario, then I'll reevaluate the whole situation.
Hey, well, the best thing is, look, we got it all on record. Time will tell. We'll see if this ages well, but this was a good one, y'all.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, y'all.
1